Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
What is up, everyone? I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive into the show, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Rise Wallet. These are physical Bitcoin gift cards that you can pick up at a store near you. These are super easy and I find really great for onboarding new users to Bitcoin. So the way they work is you can pick them at a store near you, you gift them to anybody you like, and on the back of the card it tells the person to download the paired app and then scratch and scan the code. At this point, it creates them a brand new Bitcoin wallet on their phone and then sends them an on-chain transaction for the face value of the card. I can't stress how easy these really are. I've gifted them to a bunch of people and I think they're excellent for brand new users of Bitcoin and a fun little thing to play with as well. So if you want to head over and check them out, risewallet.com, head over to the top right. You can click on locations and see where you can pick them up. And they are currently only in Canada, but keep an eye out because they're looking at expanding in the near future. Secondly, we have Paxful. This is an online peer-to-peer Bitcoin marketplace where you can buy and or sell Bitcoin. And this is particularly attractive to those of you that would like to have a lot of different payment options. And when I say a lot, what do I mean? They have over 300 different payment options on Paxful. Anything from bank and wire and e-transfers to popular payment apps like PayPal and Cash App, and even things like paying for Bitcoin using gift cards. So some of the less known ways of paying for Bitcoin. Now, on the flip side of that, if you want to be making a little bit of money by flipping Bitcoin, you can always become a vendor on here and buy and sell Bitcoin and be making money on the spread. You can actually clean up pretty well. Beyond that, they also have a pretty killer affiliate program. And if you're looking to buy super cheap gift cards, I have found some insane deals on here. I'm talking like Starbucks, Amazon, Walmart, all those types of gift cards, sometimes 20, 30, 40% off if you're buying it with Bitcoin. So be sure to head over, check them out, paxful.com. There's a link in the description if you want to check them out. With that, let's dive into the news. And holy shit, lots going on today. If you didn't notice, if you're underneath a rock right now, wow. So obviously, markets are in a tizzy. Everybody's panicking. Coronavirus is running wild. The president is making speeches. So and Bitcoin is not unaffected by any of this by any means. So let's kind of dive into the macro the macro situation we're in right now, and then we'll dive into how Bitcoin is handling this, we'll say. Well, the President Trump last night had a press conference for the world to see, and while he was trying to assure everybody that everything is under control, he also in the same breath prevented or announced a forthcoming ban on flights from anywhere in Europe to the US. Now, this excludes citizens of the US and family members, so on and so forth. But basically, if you're not a US citizen and you're anywhere in Europe, don't plan to fly to the US anytime soon. Now, this ban is supposed to be 30 days and it does exclude the UK, but if things can change this quickly, I just wouldn't bank on flying to the US at any point in the near future. And many other countries around the world, we've seen Italy basically shut down. You can't get into or out of most of those areas. There's things like jail sentences if you go out in public and you have symptoms. There's just everything is being shut down. It's pretty wild. Now, the markets have in turn freaked the hell out regarding all of this. The stock market plunged even more today. Right off the bat, right out the gates, the S&P dropped more than 7%. That triggered the circuit breaker, which meant all trading was suspended for 15 minutes and then resumed. And well, that didn't really do much. It still ended the day down quite a bit. Now, the U.S. death toll was 39 by Thursday afternoon today, with more than 1,300 confirmed cases. The Dow Jones also is now firmly in bear market territory. It was down 2,000 points today, around 8%. Absolutely crazy. And the other scary, well, we'll dive into more about the Dow in a second, but what was the response from the Fed regarding this? Well, this is mind-blowing, but they announced in a bit of a tweet storm and elsewhere that they are injecting $1.5 trillion worth of liquidity into the markets over the next couple of days. 1.5 trillion into the markets in a couple days. So here's the actual tweet and part of their tweet storm here. Today, March 12th, 2020, we will offer 500 billion in a 3-month repo at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time that will settle on March 13th, 2020. Tomorrow, we will offer 500 billion in a 3-month repo and 500 billion in a 1-month repo for same-day settlement. $1.5 trillion in a couple days. Well, I guess by the end of tomorrow. Tomorrow is the settlement time. Friday the 13th, funny enough. But anyways, insane amounts of money just being pumped into the markets. So, and beyond that, they have nowhere else to go, right? The interest rates are damn near zero. They will be zero probably before summer. And then what? Negative interest rates pump more money into the system. It's wild. Also, the futures on the Dow, by the way, it lost 2,000 points today. The futures markets have it tracking to lose well over 2,600 points. That's down 11% from where it is right now, dipping below 21,000. By the way, the all-time high for the Dow was getting close to around 30K. So the Dow has already shed about a third of its value in the last little bit here. Just wild. The markets are going wild. And then on top of this, and this, I've never seen anything like this before. Jim Cramer, the market analyst on CNBC, he was on live television and he was essentially tearing apart the Trump administration and the government for how they're reacting to COVID-19, coronavirus, and what they're doing to markets and people in the U.S. And he said, he slammed the U.S. government's response to the novel coronavirus outbreak. He argued, "This is the time for radical action. I want the federal government to know more than me. I knew more than they did in 2007, and I know more than they do now, and it is disappointing." He's worried that companies might go bankrupt because of the virus, and he actually proposed temporarily suspending all government taxation. Now, after he said this, the phone rang. Yes, while on live TV, and he said, I really have to take this call. And his co-host, okay, take off your mic. And he kind of stumbles off. You hear him answer the phone, and then he disappears for a little bit. It was the White House who were watching CNBC at the time, calling him. And who knows what they said on the call, but they gave him a little bit of information. He came back to his co-host afterwards, and he said, I think it's all going to change now. I think they're going to take some of my suggestions. But I've got to say, his voice sounded a tad shaky. Now, I don't know whether that was just the shock of having the White House call you on live TV while you're tearing them to shreds. That probably had something to do with it. But what he said also sounded a little bit, not necessarily scripted, but a little bit like somebody in the phone was like, yo, here's what you're going to say, and go. It was, I don't really know how to categorize this, but it was something like I've never seen, and it definitely doesn't exude a lot of confidence in the current administration and how they're handling things if they're just sitting back watching CNBC being like, yo, let's call that guy and see if he knows what to do. Oh man. Let's now kind of segue into how is Bitcoin handling this. Well, not well. Not well. It is down a lot. As we've mentioned, in the last 24 hours, we dropped a couple grand, which is basically a quarter of its market cap value, 25%. Now, right now, we are below 6,000. At the time of recording this, we're just above 5,900. We've been as low as the 5,500s, not too deep into the 5,500s, but closer to 56. Anyways, low. We're low. And people are freaking out. People are scared, obviously. If we head over to the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, we're at a solid 14, 0 being the most fear possible, and 100 being absolute greed. Now, just yesterday, we're at a 17. If you go to last week, we're at a 39, which is not extreme fear. It's just categorized as fear. And the month prior, we were in a greed stage. We're at 63. So how the tables have turned quite quickly here. So furthermore, the entire crypto market has been absolutely decimated. I mean, Bitcoin, yes, has been hit, but some of these other coins, even deeper, 30, 40% crashes in some of those. And we've seen the total market cap for all cryptocurrencies fall from 224 billion just the other day to 164 billion today. A drop of more than a quarter, that's around 27%. And a drop of a staggering $100 billion in the whole market cap in 6 days. So pretty wild there. Now, who's selling? Who is selling right now? Who are the people that are reacting to this? Well, I would imagine people that are, one, over leveraged. If you're on exchanges using excessive amounts of leverage, trying to maximize your gains, you probably got wrecked. You probably got liquidated, which triggers you having to sell at lower levels. And that can wipe out a person's portfolio quite quickly. It's a scary way to do things. Other than that, what about people that weren't investing with money they could afford to lose? They weren't doing the responsible thing. So if people were buying Bitcoin with credit cards that they were going to have to pay off? What if people were buying Bitcoin with money that they were going to need to pay bills in the near future? They were borrowing money from people and now have to pay that back. Not to mention you have funds, some private funds that hold Bitcoin that may need to pay off leverage in other places that may be getting margin called. And if you're sitting in Bitcoin while you're going to sell that asset in order to pay off something else, it's not just Bitcoin. Gold also is subject to this as well. We've seen gold sell off. It hasn't been safe in this market either, because again, if you're over leveraged somewhere and you're getting margin called and you've got money in gold, you're going to have to sell the gold to pay off your margins. So everybody is hurting right now. Now, what I like to point to in times like this is who's left after all those people sell? Well, it's the people that responsibly put money into Bitcoin that they weren't going to need anytime soon, or ideally weren't ever going to need and would be okay with losing. And the people that see that nothing has fundamentally changed with Bitcoin itself. It still functions. And the interesting thing about this is this. The Bitcoin block reward halving is in 59 days. In a time where the market is losing its goddamn mind, where the Fed literally is printing $1.5 trillion in a matter of 2 days, where we're approaching negative interest rates and are likely to go deeply negative at some point in the future if this market does not stop where it's at. Bitcoin monetary policy has no centralized entity to swoop in and say, yo, we need a bailout, we need to print some more money. Bitcoin in 59 days will reduce its issuance of new coins by half. We will go from 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes to 6.25. Nothing is going to stop that. At this point, just shy of 87% of all Bitcoin have already been mined, and it's about to taper off very, very soon. And so in the face of market insanity and central banks desperately trying everything to stem the bleeding, to stop the bleeding, Bitcoin is chugging along. It's still putting out blocks every 10 minutes. Transactions are still going through, and that monetary policy is not getting fucked with. It is going to stand as it is not going anywhere. And when the Fed injects all this money into the economy, when we see negative interest rates and we see people wondering what to do, will the Fed and other central banks be able to prop all this up? Maybe. They did it in 2008. They pumped in unprecedented amounts of money. They gave it to bailout banks that were about to fail and gave them a free pass for all of their stupid over-leveraging that they were doing. And what did the banks do? They rebought their shares. They pumped up their own shares. And then they shoved it all into equity markets and sent us into a 12-year unchallenged bull market that was entirely a bubble. And whether it was coronavirus or it was something else, something was going to pop that bubble eventually. And we've seen it happen, and the money is flowing out. And while the Fed and other central banks can attempt to band-aid this once again, my guess is that it's going to have less of a lasting effect. It might work temporarily, but people are going to start to understand, and they're going to start to see the cracks in the system, and now they have something to contrast and compare. I know that Bitcoin is down right now, but I also know that the underlying infrastructure, that the principles upon which it was built, and that the monetary policy that moves forward no matter what is in place, and no insane person can come in and say, we need to inflate the shit out of this right now. Nobody is going to inflate it and make your piece of the pie smaller. So if you're not hurting right now and you've done the responsible thing of only putting in money that you can afford to lose, I hope you have a cool head. I hope that you have a steady set of strong hands, and I wish you the best. And I'm while it's not super fun to watch these kind of dips, I do view them as necessary. And everybody was pretty damn bullish just in recent history, and this gave everybody a gut check. That is for damn sure. But hey, I've been around for a while, and I'm happy to stick this out. So if you are too, then I'll continue to see you every day or so. And I hope you continue to join me here. Now, I did want to touch on a couple last things before we wrap up here. So I mentioned this back in December when I had a little switch, but I've been working with BTSE, and this is one of the things I'm very, very excited about, is that BTSE is doing a grant to BTCpay server. And what they're doing is they're doing a direct contribution, and they are contributing $80,000 to Andrew Camilleri, who's also known as Kukks, and he is basically their core contributor. And he's been working with them for quite some time, and he's a fantastic person, and if anybody deserves it, it's him. And BTCpay, honestly, one of the most important projects in the space, and to see this kind of a grant go forward where this individual can now not have to worry about money and can just focus on his work and start building out incredible infrastructure on top of Bitcoin without any worry in the back of his mind. Fantastic. So kudos BTCpay, kudos BTSE for putting money in a project that is well worth it. And I hope to see a lot more of this in the future, but it makes me happy to have in some way, shape, or form been a part of this. And I'm going to leave it at one other thing. This is a tweet from Travis Kling. He said, I don't know how long this will last, but after the dust settles, after economic activity resumes, after central banks and governments inject many trillions of new dollars by increasing balance sheets and deficits, off that bottom, There is no other asset on the planet that will move like Bitcoin. And Nick Szabo, I always mess up his name. He had a nice little tag onto that. He said, gradually, then suddenly, margin calling boots the speculators, then leaves the increasing number of people who actually understand and benefit from the value proposition. Down, then up. So kudos to Travis and Nick. Always great seeing their input. And I guess I'm going to wrap it there, guys. Hell of a day. I hope you're all holding on strong. I know I am. And yeah, as always, please do hit like, subscribe, and share if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to the pod, of course, share that on your social media links. If you want to help out the show in another way, you can hit up the sponsors that I mentioned down below. Those were Rise and Paxful, as well as LEDN. Now, LEDN, of course, you can use your Bitcoin for a variety of services. They've got savings accounts where you can earn interest. They've got Bitcoin-backed loans, which is one of the first services I ever used with them. I was in a pinch, kind of like now, where Bitcoin was not at a great price, and I had to pay for some crap, but I didn't want to sell it. So I used a Bitcoin-backed loan because I was worried about having to buy back in at a higher price. So I used the Bitcoin-backed loan, I got dollars, and I'm lucky that I did at the time that I did because it was right before the April pump last year, and I was able to then get all of my Bitcoin back upon paying back that loan. So be sure to check out the Bitcoin-backed loans if you might be in a situation like this. And then, of course, they've got B2X for any huge Bitcoin bulls that think this might be a local bottom. This allows you to put Bitcoin as collateral and then instantly use that collateral to rebuy the same amount of Bitcoin, essentially doubling your Bitcoin on the spot. So if you're pretty bullish with these low prices and you wanna get into that, then you can always check out B2X. Either way, check out all of that in the show notes down below, ledn.io. And if you use the link there and you opt to get a loan, they'll credit you with an additional $50 of Bitcoin into your account. And then if you really like what you saw, you can always drop me a Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page, tippin.me/@BTC sessions. With that, I'm out, you guys. Strong hands, hold on strong. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time for your daily session.